I could feel you. Also, I could see you in that reflection with my eyes.
As humans, we must feel one of these things at least once in our life: heartbreak and loneliness. Mira Ray struggles as she tries to pull out of the heartbreak of losing someone dear in her life to love again. In the opening scene of Love Again, 2023, Celine Dion's music plays in the background as the scene opens to a busy cafe. Mira is seated and scribbling on a book when she receives a text from John. Subconsciously, she smiles immediately after she sees it. She tells him she is drawing as he continues to flirt with her through text. Mira continues drawing giddily when a man's voice comes up from behind her saying that it might sound crazy, but he couldn't help but notice her from across the room. Mira, who has been smiling, suddenly stands up, turns around, and kisses him. They exchange pleasantries and she eats the snacks he bought for her happily. He tries to open her drawing pad but she rushes to close it, not wanting him to see it yet. John suggests they go to Roxy's but Mira says that they should come to her house so that she'll cook instead. But John jokes that she can't cook. When John is about to leave, Mira tells him to wait and finally shows him her drawing. It turns out to be a drawing of him and John teases her she's a lucky lady because he's a fine man, and Mira laughs, agreeing that she is. She watches him leave. Suddenly she hears the sound of tires screeching and Mira is scared as people shout for help in the background. The next scene shows us that 2 years are gone and Mira is staying at her parents' home. She has withdrawn from everyone else after John's death, and even when her sister Susie calls to check up on her daily, Mira doesn't pick up. But Susie did not give up on her even in her grief, and she keeps sending her voicemail. She mentions how Mira's drawings have gotten darker and urges her to come back to the city. She believes that John loved her, and he won't want to see her stuck in grieving for so long. This seems to work as Mira decides to go back to the city. Susie happily welcomes her sister and is surprised to see that she's still driving John's truck. But she does this because it still smells like him. Susie gives her a comforting hug and is glad that Mira took the courage to come to the city. Next scene, we see a man, Rob, lying on a couch listening to music. He sleepily removes his headphones and his alarm starts ringing. He wakes up with a start and picks up his phone only to find it blaring with messages. He stands up to go prepare for work, but his phone chimes again. This time, it's an Instagram post of a woman introducing her new man. Seeing this, Rob scoffs in disbelief. At work, Rob's boss tells him to work with Celine Dion, but Rob is strongly against this idea and wants to work on a newspaper podcast. His boss insists that he is to work with Celine Dion. He also points out that recently Rob's work has lacked heart after he was embarrassed by his ex, and that Celine is all about heart. He finally threatens him, saying he should get on board or he'll find someone else. Next scene, Mira is playing Scrabble with her sister at Roxy's. She and her sister catch up as they talk about Susie's boyfriend. They are also surprised that Mo, the owner of Roxy, has named a burger after her, and Mo says that he names his burgers after his favorite customers. He lets her know that he missed her and asks how she's been holding up. Mo mentions how he's missing his late wife too, to let her know she's not alone. Mira asks how he deals with his grief, and Mo says he pours a glass of wine, sits down for dinner, and tells her about his day. The scene goes back to Rob's office where he's watching the video of Celine Dion's "It's All Coming Back to Me Now." Behind him, his colleague and friend Lisa sing along with the song. Next, she gives him a new work phone that Hughes wants him to have. Hughes has given this same phone to Lisa and Billy, their other colleague. Billy then asks Rob when he's going to text Jessica, and he says he's not looking to date anymore. He believes that love isn't real and that it's just a bunch of pheromones that wear off, then your heart gets ripped out, covered in bleach, stomped on, and set on fire in front of your friends and family. His view on love leaves Billy in disgust and Lisa in shock. The next scene shows Mira, who's sitting up on her bed looking relaxed. Her sister Susie enters with a box that had John written on it. After his demise, John's mom had given it to her, but she hadn't opened it. Susie rips it open because she believes that is what is still holding her back. In the box, they find John's shirt, which Mira puts on immediately, a book called Orpheus and Eurydice, and also an engagement ring that John never got to give her, and she wears it too. Finding all these makes Mira emotional, and Susie thinks it may be a little unhealthy, but Mira believes otherwise. Susie hugs her sister as she can't hold her tears anymore. As it rains at night, Mira pours wine into 2 glass cups on a chair in front of her. She tries to talk to John following Mo's advice, but she doesn't feel it. Meanwhile, in his room, Rob is watching an intense basketball game. Back to Mira, she sees that talking to the air is not working, so she sends a text message to John's former number instead. Due to the rain, the light goes off for a while. An annoyed Rob searches for his phone when his work phone chimes. He checks it and sees a weird message saying, "My heart is broken. There's an aching inside of me." As he continues to read the romantic messages from this stranger, and as the light comes on again, he brushes it off. The next day, Rob receives another text on his way to work. It says how she's been thinking of him and how the place is empty where he should be sleeping beside her. As he's walking, he hits someone and it turns out to be Mira. The scene changes to where Mira's boss is assessing her painting for the next book. She reminds Mira that they're making a children's book and that her paintings are too dark. But weirdly, Mira believes it's better to prepare them because life will inevitably crush their hopes and dreams, giving her boss no choice but to put pressure on her. She introduces Molly, who is a paid intern and is on scholarship. Mira is happy to meet her, but she turns speechless when her boss tells her that Molly will lose her job if she doesn't figure herself out and bring in something they can publish, hoping this will make her act right. Meanwhile, in his office, Rob is reading a book on Celine Dion when he receives another of the strange texts. This time the person is saying that she knows she's crazy but no one else understands. Confused, Rob looks back and sees Lisa on her phone. She then winks at him and he faces his desk bewildered. Rob walks up to her and asks if they can speak in private and she agrees. In an inner office, Rob starts telling her how flattered he is and how it takes a lot of guts to share your feelings with someone. However, this makes Lisa very confused. He starts reciting parts of the messages he could remember and Lisa feels disgusted with the words. Seeing how she reacts, Rob asks her if she sent him a text and she says no after reading through them and saying she doesn't flirt like that. Confused, he asks who's sending the texts and another text comes in and Lisa suggests that it's a phishing text. She advises John to delete the text. Meanwhile, Mira is sitting on a bench at the park trying to figure out what to draw, but she gives up and texts John instead. At a press conference with Celine, an uncomfortable Rob receives a text that talks about how time moves slowly when your heart is not into what you're doing. He murmurs, distracting Celine, who's been answering the other journalists. She asks what that was and Rob answers that he was replying to a text. Celine sarcastically says he should feel free since she's boring him. She asks if he has a question for her and he says he does. Rob then says that she sings a lot about love, but at times her songs seem to negate themselves, and asks if she believes in what she sings. Sighing, Celine tells him that he knows nothing about love, and the others laugh at him. In their house, Susie asks Mira who's on her phone and who she's texting, but she says no one. She asks if it is the same no one Mira was texting the previous night, and Mira says yes, but that it isn't what she's thinking. Susie tells her that there's nothing wrong with putting herself back there. Mira is confused about how to go about finding love again, but Susie seems to be a step ahead. She has gotten her on a dating app and eventually succeeds in convincing Mira to go on a date with the match she found. In the office, Billy is concerned about the mysterious text Rob is getting because Lisa has told him about it. Rob doesn't believe it's a scammer. He thinks that it's more like a psychotic stalker or an old lady. Billy advises Rob to text back, but he refuses, saying it's too personal. Rob gets another text and it says she's going to the hipster bar Renda's. Excited, Rob says he's going too. Billy tries to stop him because he thinks it's dangerous, but Rob is determined to put a face to the texts. Lisa, who's been watching, tells Billy to follow him. In front of the bar, Billy tells him that what he's doing is unhealthy and asks him how he'll find the person, but he says he doesn't know. As they go in, Mira and Susie enter and Susie encourages a reluctant Mira before they enter. They also plan an escape in case the guy is a dud. Susie advises her not to think too much about it and also tells her not to ask her would you rather questions. In the bar, Rob and Billy sit while Billy makes fun of him and points out a man that could be his texter. As Mira walks in, Rob quickly hits Billy, saying he's seen her before. He is not exactly what she expects. The man Billy pointed to earlier sent them a drink, allowing them to assess if he was the texter. Susie checks up on Mira and tells her to just get laid. However, not following what her sister advises, Mira tries out her would you rather question on her date, but he just brushes it off, saying that kind of question puts pressure on him, leaving her disappointed. Billy comes back happy that he got the man's number. He and Rob then compare both numbers to confirm if he's the texter, and he turns out not to be the one. The search continues. When her date excuses himself to the restroom, Mira takes out her phone and sends a text to John. On his end, Rob receives a message saying that her date might have gone to do push-ups in the bathroom. His eyes are on Mira as he is subtly convinced that she's the one. He tells Billy this, but he shows him 3 other people texting. But he is curious to know why he thinks it's her. Rob said that she doesn't seem to be enjoying her date, but just then Mira and her date are laughing, which negates his opinion. They leave and Rob is disappointed. In the taxi, Mira and her date kiss, while she tells him that she wants to take things slowly, but he misunderstands, trying to kiss her slowly instead. Mira makes it clear to him, and after the guy confirms she doesn't want to get down with him, he begins to search for another date. Annoyed, Mira tells him to get off, and she quickly wears her ring, which she took off earlier before going on the date. The next day, Rob goes to see Celine Dion at her office when he receives more texts. In the office, Rob introduces himself and Celine recognizes him as the rude texter. He confirms it and she asks to see his hands. After seeing them, she says he has manly hands but acts like a boy. She then asks him to be honest and asks him if he's a fan of her music. Rob lies to please her, but she knows he is not being truthful. Rob argues that he can understand her lyrics, and Celine asks if he's ever felt like that or made anyone feel like that before, and he's left speechless. Celine reads Rob and she knows that he has felt love before. Rob confesses that he did love before, but it didn't work out. She asks if he has feelings for anyone at that moment, and Rob tells her that he might have feelings for someone he's never met before. Celine tells him to go on. At home, Mira is going through some things when she stumbles on her drawing of John. Upon seeing this, high-pitched voices start ringing in her ear, and she throws the book, accidentally smashing the record she was listening to. The scene goes back to Celine and Rob, who are bonding as he talks about the texts he's been receiving. She tells him to pursue it, and he asks her if she doesn't think it's crazy. Celine tells him that love is crazy and can appear through strange situations. She even further explains how she realized she loved her late husband, René. Their time is up and Rob realizes that he didn't interview her, and she tells him to come again. On his way back, he receives another text, and this time the texter says she needs a break. On the days Mira doesn't send texts, Rob feels sad and lonely. In his office one day, Billy seizes the phone saying it's not healthy for him, but a text comes in. Rob starts panicking, but Billy tells him to stay calm because he doesn't even know it's from her. The text is from her, but it doesn't make sense to Billy, and he leaves the phone. Rob reads out the text, and Lisa explains that it's a quote from Orpheus and Eurydice. She mentions wearing a yellow dress to the opera, and Rob decides he'll go there because it tends to have a meaning for her. Lisa and Billy remind him that he doesn't know when she might show up, and he says that he'll keep going till she shows up. Billy thinks it's crazy, but Rob believes love makes fools of everyone. Just as he promised, Rob keeps going to the opera. He enjoys himself listening and watching intensely, but is also distracted searching for the texter. Almost giving up, he finally sees her one day walking down the stairs in a yellow dress she had mentioned in her text. Because of the intensity of his stare, Mira asks if she knows him, and Rob is speechless for a while. He says he's not sure, and Mira apologizes. As she tries to leave, Rob quickly stops her, saying that everyone starts as strangers, and they start a comfortable conversation. He asks if she liked the show, and she says yes, she did. Rob voices his thoughts, saying it was hopeful. When she seems confused, he explains further what he means by saying love wins in the end, and there's no joy without struggle. Mira is happy to experience a new view of the song, as she's never seen it in that light before. A short silence passes between them, and Rob asks if she likes to have his number. Mira agrees, and they introduce themselves. In his home, Rob compares the numbers and smiles. He then browses about her and finds out that she writes children's books. He also sees pictures of her and her boyfriend on Facebook and finds out that he's late. His work phone chimes, and he checks the message where Mira tells John that she met an interesting man. Next scene, in his office, Rob breaks the news to Billy and Lisa that he has spoken to her, and she finds him interesting. When Billy asks how he knew she is the one, Rob explains that she texted her late boyfriend about it and that he found John's Facebook profile. His phone starts ringing, and it's Mira. Meanwhile, Mira is pacing in her house, a little worried that Rob might not pick up. But Susie tells her to leave a message. Back at the office, Billy and Lisa urge him to answer the phone, and he picks up, awkwardly shouting, "Yo." They get talking, and the conversation is a little bit awkward, courtesy of Rob, who asks about the weather and how he loves food. He reins himself enough to ask her out. Mira suggests Roxy's for cheeseburgers, and they both agree. Billy is shocked and speechless with how awkward Rob spoke on the phone, while Susie and Mira are happy that she got a date with someone the normal way. In his office, it still seems too unbelievable to Rob that they are going to meet by 7 that night. Lisa suggests it's a good opportunity to tell her about the text, but Rob refuses, saying she'll never speak to him again. Meanwhile, in the boss's office, he asks Rob how Celine Dion's piece is coming up, and Rob says good, but there is no write-up to show for it. He also points out the strange texts on Rob's work phone, and Rob lies that they're lyrics for Celine's new song. Rob gets to Roxy's late, meeting Mira already seated. After exchanging pleasantries, Mira tells him that she's been looking forward to their meeting because the previous night she felt like she knew him. He tries to talk about the text, but instead excuses himself. On getting back, Mira asks a would-you-rather question. And at first, it looks like he wasn't going to answer, but he does, relieving Mira. From there, they hit it off. After dinner, they take a walk where he asks about her ring. She apologizes, but tells him about her late boyfriend. He also tells her about his ex, who left the week before their wedding. As they keep conversing, Rob realizes that he finally understands the lyrics of Celine Dion's song Love is a Mystery, and in a restless world it can be ended before it even begins. Mira keeps asking her would you rather questions, and Rob asks her why she loves it. She says it's because they are very telling of people. He asks her if she can fall for someone through words, and she says yes, but actions speak louder than words. They come across someone playing music, and he asks her for a dance. They dance till the music stops, and even after. Next scene, Rob confesses that he likes her, and she lets him know she feels the same way too. He then tries to tell her about the texts again, but he is not able to say it for fear of rejection. They agree to continue their date at Mira's house later in the evening. At night in Mira's house, they both try to cook, but it ends up so bad, and they end up eating a bowl of cereal. The night is fun as Rob makes Mira laugh. Rob then tells Mira that he'd learned to cook for her. The silence that comes after is a little bit awkward, but Rob asks Mira what happened with John filling it up. Mira explains that it was a drunk driver in broad daylight. It's been 2 years and it's still hard to believe. She apologizes, but Rob tells her not to worry and that one can't prepare for something like that. She talks about how she always thought they'll grow old together, but she's the only one growing old. To quell the solemn mood, Mira asks Rob to talk about the things he likes apart from music. Rob says he likes basketball, and Mira asks to play sometime. He starts to talk about basketball, and Mira falls asleep. Realizing this after a while, he carries her to her bed, tucks her, and settles on the couch in the living room. As he lays down, Susie enters earbuds in ear and walks straight to the fridge. He walks up to her and taps her startled. Susie punches him and carries a helmet to hit him, but Rob hurriedly introduces himself, and she recognizes him. She apologizes and asks him if he wants a beer. The next morning, Mira goes to the living room and sees Susie and Rob talking. She informs them of going out and she cries in the car. At Barclays Center, Rob meets Celine, who's practicing her song. Seeing him, she says he looks brighter and more focused, asking if he finally met the unknown texter. Rob tells her she's not unknown anymore. He tells her how much he likes Mira but that she's still stuck on her late boyfriend. Celine asks for her name and recognizes her as the children's writer. When Celine's assistant brings the drawing for Celine's tour, she doesn't like it, and this gives Rob an idea. While drawing in her house, Mira gets a call from Celine Dion. She could not believe it at first but confirms after Celine sings that it's her. Celine asks to meet her, and that's because she's a fan. Mira and Celine meet at the hotel. Celine asks her to design her tour poster and Mira considers it an honor. She says she wants to see ideas at the end of the week. As she leaves, she calls Rob. They meet outside and Mira tells him about how Celine called her unexpectedly. Mira apologizes for ghosting him the other day. She brings out 2 cans of drink, giving one to Rob as an apology and for them to celebrate change. She also brings out a basketball, saying she thinks it's a good time to get to know him. She asks if he's ready to tell her everything about him and he says yes. They go to the basketball court and have fun playing. Mira suggests they make things interesting and says if she wins, they'll go back to his place. But if he wins, she'll cook for him again. Then Mira wraps her hand around his neck and kisses him. The next day, they wake up on Rob's bed unclad. He has to be in the newsroom in 15 minutes, so he starts to get ready. As Rob is having his bath singing, Mira stands by his table. She sings along with him happily and she sees the book about Celine Dion and picks it up. As she picks it up, his laptop comes on. Her countenance changes as she realizes that there are the texts she sent to John on it. She calls John's old line and Rob comes out of the bathroom with the phone in hand. He tries to apologize but she picks up her things. He explains that he tried to tell her but Mira is disappointed. She asks him why he lied to her face after reading all her texts and Rob says he was afraid she would stop talking to him. He assures her that his feelings for her are real but she accuses him of taking John away from her by getting close to her. Rob tells her that he didn't because John is gone. He apologizes saying he didn't want her to find out like that but Mira interrupts asking if it was before he slept with her. He becomes silent and Mira tells him to delete her number and never call her again. Both Mira and Rob both feel miserable and Rob still tries to reach out to Mira regardless. At Roxy's, Mira and Susie find out that Mo has started dating again. He says that Mira inspired him when he saw her with Rob. He misses sharing a joke with someone when he's feeling down and hanging on to his late wife won't help him. In Rob's office, his friends are worried. Lisa asks what they can do but Billy says nothing because Rob ruined it. Lisa feels he should have told her right away to sort things out. Rob believes there's no way to reach her. Suddenly he has an idea. Susie and Mira are seated when Susie's phone chimes with a message from Bernard, her boyfriend. It reads text for Mira but when Susie shows Mira, she walks away angrily, not wanting to read it. Susie starts reading it regardless. Rob expresses how sorry he is and how he has found love again with her. He says he knows he doesn't deserve a second chance but thanks to her he can hear the music of love again. He begs her for forgiveness and says he'll do anything to earn her trust back. He also says he's not afraid to tell the world that he has been touched by an angel with love. He asks her to meet him at the place he learned to hear the music again, begging for another chance. As Susie finishes reading, Mira gets a call from Celine who assures her that Rob didn't put her up to it. She also talks about her husband Renee and when he lied to her. She tells her that when you're in love, you walk through things. She doesn't care if she ends up with Rob but that she's just concerned about her. The next scene shows Mira in her room, talking to an imaginary John who tells her to keep living her life. He asks her why she's still talking to him when he's late. She says she misses him and he says he misses her too but that he wants her to fly. In the next scene, Rob is waiting for Mira with a flower in his hands at the park where they danced after their first date. He waited for hours but she didn't come. Finally, he goes to her house but sees only Susie who doesn't know where she is. Susie invites him in and Rob sees Mira's ring on the painting and realizes she's moving on, but disappointed that it's not with him. Susie gives a hint, making Rob realize that she might be at the opera theater. He thanked her and ran to the theater but the place was locked. He runs to the road shouting her name but gets a text instead. She asks him where he's off to in such a hurry and he turns around seeing her standing behind him not too far off. They start walking towards each other. Mira says she almost thought he changed his mind but he apologizes saying he was at the park. However, she says that she has a few conditions. She says no more lying, even if it is messy and painful, and he promises not to. She lets him know that she'll always love and miss John and that she doesn't know how the grief will change over time. Rob replies saying he understands. Mira appreciates him for understanding. Rob asks if there's anything else, and she tells him to learn how to cook because she can't. He agrees to sign up for lessons immediately. She also tells him that Celine says he needs to do the dishes, and he agrees. Finally, she asks him to kiss her, to which he happily obliges. In the last scene, Celine Dion gives a live show of her song, It's All Coming Back to Me Now. Kindly subscribe and like for more videos. Thank you for watching.